Hi.
Hello.
Thank you so much for agreeing to do this, especially with your busy schedule. I was reading you had a show tonight.
Yes, I do. This week has been a little crazy. I was in Nashville for the first half of the week and flew back. I had a show there, and then I flew back on Wednesday night, and I had a show last night. I have one tonight. I have two tomorrow and one on Sunday. So
Oh,
this
wow.
week, trying to kill me, I do believe.
Well, I'm sure you're doing great. And like I said, thank you so much for agreeing to do this. I heard your music on Spotify actually, and I'm like, wow, this is really good. It really showed your passion for music. And I'm like, this is a really good artist.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. Thank you. That means a lot. That's why we make music.
Definitely. So we'll just go ahead and get started. Thanks to everyone who's joining. This is Paige King Johnson, who is a wonderful, wonderful artist. So, Paige, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, just to kind of start out, like, who and or what got you into music?
Well, I always tell people that I was the kid that just needed attention, that I loved being in front of people. I loved singing in church. I loved singing at school. I loved performing for my mom in the back seat of the car, whatever it was. And so I truly do believe that music has been inside of me ever since I was a little girl. But my mom, thankfully, and my dad both, they were parents who saw the value in putting kids in music lessons at a young age. And so I started out in piano lessons when I was about 5 years old. And then when I was 10, and kind of grew over the years and kept performing in church and at school and in choir and all that kind of stuff. And then at the age of 10, my granddad, he kind of saw that spark and saw the joy that music brought to me, and he bought me a guitar for Christmas that year. And thought, well, what if we put a guitar in this girl's hands and kind of see where it goes. And so he was kind of the first push into the next level of music, if you will, for me. And really was the one who had these dreams for me and kind of put these dreams in my mind. And then the following Easter, he actually passed away. And so I kind of took that as my sign from the world and from the Lord and from him that, music was maybe something that I was meant to do further than just being a hobby. And he still is with me in every show, and he's still kind of my driving force for it all.
That's awesome. I'm so sorry to hear that. I can't imagine how that must have felt since it sounds like, was a big influence in your personal life and your music life.
Yes.
So it's awesome that you mentioned your family, because one of the things I've noticed with your music is it seems a lot of it is based on your roots and kind of not forgetting where you came from and the importance of your hometown. So I would just love it if you could kind of comment on your songwriting process, kind of when you started writing songs, and if your roots kind of play a big role in where you draw your inspiration.
Yeah, for sure. People ask me all the time, where do you draw inspiration for songs, and how do you come up with all these stories? And the truth is I do believe I have one of the best jobs in the world because I get to wake up every day and write a new story and tell other people's stories and work through my own things in life through writing songs. And there's a definitely a mix of everything. I do my best to try to pull from my personal experiences, but still kind of put up that barrier of, how far is too far of delving into personal life and experiences with, people that you're close to that deserve their privacy too. So there's definitely, little bits of my life and experiences and everything in songs. But, as songwriters, our job is to embellish everything. We're good at that. And so, um, it's a mix. It's things that I hear people say in passing that, I might think, oh, that could be a cool song idea. It could be things you read in books and hear in movies, or um, just completely random things. And I think that's the coolest thing about being a writer is that, uh, we can we can take an experience that we've had or that a friend has had or a family member, or something that we see on TV, and we can make that into whatever we want, and whatever we think could be cool and fun at the time. And so there is. But I grew up in a small town in North Carolina, in a rural farming town. The typical country song, everybody knows everybody. You all go to church together, you all eat at the same restaurants together. And so that is a big part of me. And I felt like when I moved from North Carolina to Nashville, um, was really when I gained the appreciation for the place that I was raised in and the people that helped raise me. And so a lot of that does come out in my music. And my hometown has the biggest supporters of my music all over the country. And so it's very important to me to kind of give back to that and bring light to it, and just as a continuous thank you for everything that you have done and everything that you continue to do. So that is important to me to keep in my music.
That's awesome. And one of the things I actually read was that you were the Got to Be NC ambassador, which I know since you're from North Carolina, that must help really with, your hometown's definitely supporting you through that. So I'd love it if you could just comment on that and kind of how that came about and what that's been like.
Yeah, so Got to Be NC is the marketing division for the North Carolina Department of Agriculture. And I tell people that the only thing in my life that has taken up more time than music has been agriculture and farming and everything that kind of goes along in that world. I grew up riding horses and showing horses. We had sheep all over the farm and showed those. I had a couple of rabbits as well too. And growing up in a farming town, we have all of our family friends are farmers, and we go to church with them and hear their stories, and all that kind of stuff. And um, I didn't really realize how important that was and how integral that was in um, you know, forming me as a person, and being able to value the importance of that until I moved to Nashville and met people who did not grow up in a community like that and had never heard all the stories of day-to-day farmers, and didn't really realize the impact that they do have on everything, from our food supply to just how smoothly our families run and our lives run in the everyday. And so as the Got to Be NC ambassador, I'm grateful to get to have this opportunity to use my platform as a musician and as a songwriter and an artist to be able to go out and reach the masses that I'm already reaching with my music, and to be able to share those stories and to continue to spread everything that the agribusinesses and the farm families are doing here in North Carolina that is going far beyond just our state lines here in North Carolina. And getting to encourage kids and go into high schools and get to educate them on jobs in agriculture and the importance that this has for our future, in our economy and in our workplaces and everything that it touches. Um, and I'm getting to encourage people in music as well. We're doing a statewide talent competition that's coming up in September, called NC Ag Star. That's another sector of that partnership. And we're getting to travel around to different cities in North Carolina and see the talent that all these young singers and songwriters have that, I was in their shoes 12 years ago, 15 years ago. And it's a really cool thing, and I'm really excited about just continuing that conversation and continuing to inspire these kids, whether it's in music or in agriculture or in a world where they kind of fuse together.
That's awesome. It sounds like it's just a really good way to kind of give back to the hometown that's already given you so much support. And
Yes.
yeah, it sounds really, really cool. So I have to ask, I noticed in your Famous Enough video, you got to work with Pam Tillis, who is an amazing, amazing artist. So I'd love it if you could just comment on what that was like for you.
Yeah. I met Pam back in 2020. That was the first interaction that we had ever had, and she had heard my single at the time, which was called Just Like You. Um, and in the middle of pandemic and all that kind of stuff, she was off the road. not doing all of her normal day to day, rock star stuff. And she was kind of looking at some new things to keep her busy and as new hobbies to pick up in that time. And she came across my music and was just amazed at my songwriting and everything that I kind of had going on at the time, and reached out to my manager and just expressed her interest, expressed her love for everything that I'm doing. And she's just like, any way that I can be involved, I'd love to. I believe in this girl and I want to help her in any way I can. Which is like, holy crap, Pam Tillis wants to, she
Yeah,
likes my music.
definitely.
And so it ended up her producing that music video for me, and that just opened up this whole world of this beautiful friendship that we've created over the last 3 years. And her being a mentor to me as someone who has been in my shoes of being a young woman in country music and trying to, create that career and start that path for herself. She has all these little nuggets of information that she shares with me all the time, and stories and everything in between, which I'm so grateful for. But um, it really has been a blessing to get to work with her and see her flourish as a producer behind the camera. She spent so many years in front of the camera, but this is kind of her first role, is stepping behind the camera and doing producing. And so it's been a really cool time. The Famous Enough video was the third video that we've done together. So we're kind of figuring each other out, and our relationship has most definitely grown over the years. And so um, this video, I feel like, was the most comfortable one that we have done and the most seamless one. And we had a lot of fun creating that.
Awesome. That's wonderful. You're right. Pam Tillis is just an amazing artist. So
Uh,
it
I know.
must have been a dream to definitely get to work with her.
Yes.
So in addition to Pam Tillis, I'd love for you to just comment on who some of your other influences are in the music world.
I grew up in a house that loved classic country music, thankfully, and we listened to a lot of Merle Haggard. We listened to a lot of Loretta Lynn and Patsy Cline, and I just think their voices and the way that they told stories, and even the way down to the production of their songs at the time was just so real and raw and honest. And I love that about that, and I think that country music, that's what it was built on. So I listen to them a lot. I pull from that in production ideas and writing ideas and all that kind of stuff. In modern day kind of world, I listen to a lot of Miranda Lambert, a lot of Casey Musgraves, a lot of Cody Johnson and Carly Pierce, all those artists that are kind of swinging that pendulum back to the 90s era and that classic country sound and way of telling stories, which I'm very grateful for, because that's what I was raised on. That's what I love about country music. So there's kind of a whole mix of everything. I truly do listen to everything. I think any artist and songwriter, we kind of have to create a variety in our world so that we don't get stale and get stuck in one way of thinking and way of playing and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree. I think your music, you can definitely hear the classic country, but you're able to just kind of take that into a more modern context, which is something I really like because I like classic country. So
Yes, yes,
it's
yes,
good to bring it
yes,
more into a modern context, definitely.
yes.
So just as another thing, you mentioned the collaboration with Pam Tillis. What would you say the importance of kind of collaboration in the music industry is? Maybe not just with well-known artists, but just with other artists or well-known directors or people like that.
Huge. I mean, that's what Nashville and the whole songwriting community and country music community, I mean, that's what it was built on. I quickly learned when I moved to Nashville that it is a co-writing town, 100%. And for people who don't know what that means, most of the songs that you hear on the radio were not written by one sole person. They were most likely created in a room with anywhere from two to, some of them go up to 7 or 8 different writers that have either sat in a room together, or in this day and age sat over Zoom and wrote a song, or texted back and forth for months and months and months and sent voice memos and created this song. And uh, so that's kind of on the songwriting side. And then on the producing side, I mean, there's a whole world that's opened up, especially now in such a technology driven society that we're in. I have a producer in Nashville, but he works alongside all kinds of mixing engineers and mastering engineers that are all over the country. And I think that's true for a lot of artists that, um, one person or a two-person team is great, but the more minds you add in, yes, there's more opinions and more, kind of tangents that you can get off on. But I think ultimately you're going to get a better piece of art as a whole, the more ears that hear it and the different kind of ideas that can come into it and create something that truly is unique and, something that the masses can enjoy. And so collaboration is huge. I mean, like I said earlier, you never want to get stale. You never want to kind of get in a rut of creating the same kind of thing that sounds the same or says the same things. And so I'm constantly, bringing in new writers that I write with all the time and, um, bringing in different musicians in my band and people that I play with just because it keeps the spark alive, right?
Mhm. Definitely. Yeah, I can definitely. I'm hoping to be a journalist one day, and I can definitely even agree with the importance of collaboration. Just whether for me it's having someone look over my work or having someone provide an idea and say, maybe you'd want to write about this. I
Exactly.
definitely can see the spirit of collaboration and
Oh yeah.
how important it is.
And you're constantly learning too. I mean,
Mhm.
which is great in whatever aspect.
Definitely, I would agree. You learn from collaborating with new people, and sometimes people you've collaborated with for a while may be able to give you a new idea through one of your newer projects.
Yes.
So just kind of to end us off, I was wondering if you had any advice for people who are just getting started in the music industry or people who are trying to break into the music industry.
Yeah. I always, when I get this question, I always try to separate it because I feel like when I was younger, I didn't ever realize that there were job descriptions and there were people out there who solely just wrote songs for a living. If they didn't want to be in front of the spotlight and or be in front of the cameras, they could just write amazing songs all day and get and be able to pay their bills. And so on the side of songwriting is you know, I always say to always finish whatever song you're working on, especially at the beginning of when I started writing songs. I kept hitting this wall of this is stupid. Nobody's going to want to hear this. This isn't anything that's relatable or worth talking about. And I had to learn early on that writing songs is a whole lot like an athlete who is training to get to that next level. And it's muscle memory and it's working that muscle and getting into that groove of figuring out how you write best and who you write best with. And so, no matter how stupid or how bad or how unrelatable you think whatever this song is that you're working on, finish it. Push yourself to finish it, whatever that looks like, even if it's only a 90-second song. It's continuing to work that muscle and get into that routine and that rhythm and making it a priority that will ultimately get you to that hopefully hit number one song that we're all still trying to get to. And then on the side of being an artist, especially as a woman in the music industry, I feel like I kind of have a unique experience. And especially for any other girls out there who are trying to break into it, the biggest thing I've had to learn is that there's going to be a whole bunch of people in the music industry, I think, like in any industry, that are going to have an idea of the best path for you and the best branding look for you and the best clothes for you and the best makeup and the best hair and the best songs that you should sing and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's your career. And, if everything happens like you want it to and you end up blowing up and becoming this sensation, that's going to follow you for the rest of your career and the rest of your life. And so you want to make sure that that's something that you're good with and that you're okay with and that you're proud of. So, don't settle for anything less than what you dream of, um, and don't say yes just because you feel like you have to, because there is power in saying no or saying, "Can we change this to fit me better?" And I've had to learn that over the years.
That is really good advice, both pieces. I think there's something important to remember, but unfortunately, I think there are things people sometimes tend to forget, as they continue on in the industry, they maybe like see it, they maybe write their song and they think, oh, this isn't good enough. I'm gonna start over. I'm guilty of that as just a regular writer. Sometimes I'll be writing a story and I'll be like, this is not good. I'm gonna start over completely. But I definitely think that's good to keep in mind, that you should always finish what you started. And then your advice for just more general performing is really, really important. And unfortunately, like I said, I think it's sometimes people tend to forget that and they tend to get kind of lost in the world, so to speak. And
Oh yeah. And I have to remind myself daily. I love talking to people. I love performing to people, but when it comes to sticking up for myself, that is a very hard thing to do. And um you have to keep, have that voice in the back of your head saying, Paige, this is your career. Paige, this is your career.
definitely. And thanks again for that important reminder of that. I'm just going to kind of end off here. So thank you again for joining us and being willing to do this interview.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.